So thank you so much for Tilium for inviting us. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for being here with me. Gabriel and I know each other for many years now. And what I can promise you is you're going to see an example for how a next generation customer experience is set up in the hotel industry after this talk. So
hopefully.
So Gabriel, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, well, hello everybody. Really happy to be here. Let me explain a bit about Bahia Principe. Bahia Principe is an all-inclusive chain holding 22 resorts. We hold 12,000 rooms, mainly in the Caribbean. Our main business is Dominican Republic, Mexico, and Jamaica. We also have business in Spain. And yeah, we've gone into like a really important partnership with Hyatt, 50-50 approach. I think it's the first time Hyatt does a joint venture. For them, it expands their portfolio, their all-inclusive portfolio by 33%. And that makes it the biggest all-inclusive portfolio in the world. So we're very proud of that. And for Bahia Principe, it has 3 key pillars. First of all, it helps us increase our brand presence, especially in the USA, which is a really important market for us. Well, we're going to join World of Hyatt, which is a good channel, you know, for new customers. And finally, it helps us generate a pipeline of new properties that we can manage, because our business, basically, we own all our properties. It's heavy, like capital intensive, and in that way, we can be much quicker, you know, in creating our brand, especially in the USA. And this is actually one of our resorts. It's Cayo Levantado. It's amazing. I really recommend it. It's focused on the well-being experience. And yeah, we have a coupon code for DV users, so just let me know afterwards.
Great. I guess we are all getting an invitation. That's great. Thank you so much, Gabriel. So I come from Mastercard, from Dynamic Yield from Mastercard. Let's say we are the technology that allows you to get to know each user when they come to your website, app, and orchestrate any content in real time. We take Tilium information and we leverage Mastercard transactional data all across the world to enrich the data of the user the moment they arrive on any of your sites, so that we can be more relevant to new users from the very beginning and then orchestrate the whole experience. And we work with all types of brands all across the world, not only first in Gartner for 7 years, but now as part of Mastercard, of course, being able to leverage all that transactional data in conjunction with Tilium, with their own data of the user. So let's say going to the session itself. So Gabriel, so you have been working, you have your ducks in a row for many years now. We met each other, I think, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You already worked with Tilium, and you were already, let's say, bringing silos together, right? So let's say, what are for you as a head of digital, what are the main 3 things that everyone should look at? There's so much hype in the market. So what to focus on? 3 things.
Well, I can tell you like where we were back in 2019 when we started with Tilium. Essentially, like we're born from an e-commerce side of things. So first of all, we had all sorts of silos on the ad tech and the marketing, you know, the MarTech technologies. We used to like execute, you know, campaigns on each one of them like individually. So that wasn't optimal. Secondly, they were not connected, and you know, working on an API is costly, it's time consuming. You know, you have to keep updating it, so it didn't make sense, and we couldn't do that essentially. So that was the second challenge. Third challenge, obviously, is trying to create an omni-challenge experience on the online world. And for that, you need like amazing stitching capabilities, which I don't think there's another contender rather than Tilium there. Fourthly, we wanted to have consistency in the audiences. So not like, you know, define logical audiences in different stacks, but have like a centralized governed audience, not activation also, but like definition of the audience, right? So let's say standardizing the audiences across the board. Fifthly, we had a real-time activation. I mean, there's not as many applications that can activate real-time data, and that's the honest truth. And Tilium is super fast. And then a few years later came GDPR. You know, we're based in Europe, so Tilium was also like basically just giving us a solution for that. So that's where we stand around 5 years ago, and I can say like we've closed that gap.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So let's say, from here, you were already there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So main question will be, what are you working on now? So you already did that before. You were already starting to break the silos.
Yeah.
So what are you working on, and what do you see as the key pillars in terms of how to look at the future?
Yeah. So basically, there's a lot more data that we can use to really provide value to the customer and to our company. Like there's like all sorts of unstructured data. There's offline data, and Mike was talking about it before. Contact center has a lot of data there that we can leverage. Transactional data, we were not seeing the full spectrum of the offline transactional data or even offline marketing data, right? So bringing that together, in a standardized framework is the next step, and we're actively working on that. Secondly, a single source of truth of the end customer across all business functions, right? Because we're kind of like evolving into a center of excellence, and we're starting to have a lot of stakeholders, like sales, product, operations. There's a lot of teams that want to use the customer data and cross it with all sorts of data. So we're trying to empower that in a governed way from outside. Obviously, security is first, and trying to make it scalable. But the end purpose of it, or one of the end purposes of it, is to leverage AI, right? There's Gen AI, and we'll talk about it later. And then there's symbolic AI, which is more the algorithms we've been talking about. And we're really active in trying to create, for example, cancellation algorithms that help us, because in the hotel industry, there's a lot of cancellations last minute, and that really affects your return on ad spend. So that's really important. Lifetime value, bringing, for example, occupancy curves, for the hotels, feeding that into the algos and knowing if you're going to bid more or less for a hotel that's, probably at maximum capacity or not. And finally, trying to work towards two important things for us: a really solid attribution model, which I think the only way to really have it is, centralizing all this data, and being well-relationed. And finally, a powerful marketing mix model. So we're trying to also measure our offline marketing impact, not only our online marketing impact. And for that, you need to cross it with all sorts of data, like weather data or holiday festivities and all these things. And obviously, empowering powerful insights through BIs that can work across all systemic data supply, right? So, and in the end of the day, as you can see on the diagram, Tilium is our main orchestration activation tool. Nothing beats Tilium on that, and that's our view on it. And then we have the internal business user, which is kind of a new user for us for the last years, and we're trying to help them out in their own business. So that's essentially what we're working on.
That's very interesting, and it takes the granularity of data one level further. It really reminds me of what we were discussing before. When you have all this data, and in terms of decommoditization, or in terms of the experiences that you run for the users, what is the key focus for you as a chief digital officer? You have all this data.
Yeah.
So before we get into the AI side of things and how you activate it,
yeah.
let's say, how do you see the main goals you have towards the customer, right? So once you build experiences, or in terms of the content you are how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, so customer experience, I think there's 3 pillars to it right now. First of all, I think, and this has been spoken in this session, we're shifting from a product-based vision where you just work on your product and try to make it better, better performance, more attributes, let's say like an iPhone, right? Towards a more holistic approach where you try and have a much better engagement pre-sales, during the sales, post-sales, even creating a community. And considering that whole thing your product. Okay, that's the first step, or at least that's how we think about it. Secondly, phygital. So basically, digital and physical use cases that empower the end user. And the retail industry is quite advanced on this. For example, Zara from Inditex has super powerful use cases of that. And why not on the hotel side, right? So for example, for us, and it sounds topical, but like the check-in experience is super important for the end user and also for the business. Our resorts are massive resorts. Each one of them probably has 1,000 people checking in every day. So if you can make that seamless, and provide an online experience that brings them directly to the room, that's an amazing experience for the customer. But operationally, it's a big win on the bottom line, on the GOP because of the resources, right?
It's interesting what you mentioned in terms of online and offline, because both in terms of Inditex, that is also working with Mastercard, with Dynamic Yield, and also in terms of many hotel chains in Asia, they are already optimizing for reception of guest experience, everything they do on the website itself. So looking at not only the activation of showing the right content, but being able to tell the user the right, let's say about the right extra, the right ancillary, the right experience once they arrive, right, in that precise moment. And it's actually one of the most booming use cases right now. So
very interesting.
Interesting one.
Yeah. That was in Las Vegas, no? Also?
In Las Vegas Sands, but it's happening in Asia.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it's actually booming right now. Everything that is online, offline, and that activation, and guessing that real-time calculation of the content or recommendation to that user.
Yeah. And then there's a third one, which is decommoditization. So basically, like, a lot of products compete, and they're quite similar to each other in terms of, let's say, attributes. And this happens on the hotel side also. So you don't want to fall into a commodity, because and then you're just going to fight on price. But you want to like differentiate yourself with new experiences, right? Normally, like the guest won't remember like their booking experience probably or the room they stayed in, but more of the experiences they had during their stay, right? So the hotel industry, like the airline, and the airline is more advanced in that sense. They're moving to ancillary services and other like new experiences, and you can like kind of build your hotel journey, let's say, inside the hotel. And in our case, for example, we already like piloting a 3D like model where you can actually choose the exact room that you want to stay in. You can actually hop into the room and go to the balcony and see the views that you have. Check inside the room how it's going to be, and it's room per room. We obviously charge for that, but people pay for it. So that's one of the, and it's a really positive experience for the end client, right? So this is an example of how we're trying to decommoditize our products.
And it links very well to the recurring topic of today, that is AI, right? So we have more and more content that is being generated by AI, Gen AI, but it's interesting that even when you decommoditize, you even build that VR experience of the room. So we have more and more information, more and more content for the users, but we also know their attention span is dropping, right? But how do you actually you have all that data, all that wealth of data that you are building. Of course, you understand so much about the user in real time. How do you address them? So I guess, how are you cracking the right side of this diagram with Gen AI? Because we all know it's very important, but I think very few companies are nailing it as much as you are in terms of actually executing it.
Yeah. So basically, as Anders says, the big stopper has always been, and especially if you have Tilium, like you're capable of like creating really complex user profiles with like 500 attributes, even 1,000 I've heard. So you can actually like segment really finely throughout all the channels. But the problem or the stopper, right, is that previously we couldn't generate as much content as the permutation of audiences that we can have, right? And Gen AI essentially like solves that. So Gen AI is helping us create content at scale, right? And what do I mean by that? Text, for example, being to obviously translated to like all sorts of languages that before we couldn't translate to. Also, it's really expensive to pay for translators. Different channels need different characters. So Facebook is going to need some sort of character length, and maybe Google others on their ads. So that's a tedious job to like change everything. So AI can actually work on that for its channel without losing the context of that copy, which is super powerful, right? Also, on images, the same thing. It's helping us like not only brand all the images, but like crop them automatically to like the format needed for all the channels, which was also like really time consuming. Voiceovers is a classic, super expensive to create voiceovers. We're using text to voice models, and we can scale it to pretty much any language we want. And they don't lose the meaning also. And also it's very important because, for example, in Spanish, your ad copy is different for a Spaniard living in Spain than a Spaniard living in Mexico or Argentina. And that is kind of localizing it for us also, right? And video, which is my favorite part because I think it's just amazing that the Gen AI understands the video it's seeing. That basically like we can define what sort of, we try to split the videos for different audiences. So now with Gen AI, we can tell the AI which audience is that video for, or that short script videos, and it actually like gives us the cuts where that audience is present. So it can be families, it can be like somebody with daiquiris, or single oriented or whatever, in a pretty automatic way. So that's also like a massive scaling point for us. So in essence, we had the audience granularity, but not the content granularity, because it was just too much work, it was impossible. And now with Gen AI, it's unlocking all that possibility.
Very interesting. So that brings it together where you have all the data that you were showing. You have more and more the contents, and you're one of the few brands that I've seen, especially in your vertical, nail the content side of things. And then you have, of course, the third elephant in the room, which is, as Oscar was mentioning, hyper-personalisation. Now, this is essential at a time when we know, for example, based on research from the King's College that was mentioned before earlier today, Gen Zers have 59% less attention span than millennials. And millennials, if you all remember, we already spoke about this about millennials before. So attention span is really dropping massively. So we are on the TikTok generation, Instagram. Everyone is used to being fed exactly the right information at the right time. So we have all that knowledge of a user, and we have all this content we are generating. So it's more important than ever being able to show the right content to the right user in real time. And let's say that's where the third part comes, which is where we are working on using, in this case, for first-time users, Mastercard data in order to understand even unknown users. What is the spend profile of the area or of the user? What is that we can heuristically infer about this user? And try to take not only this content for external channels to improve ROAS, which is extremely important, but also try to simplify and make our sites, our application, our website much more efficient. Use Tilium, of course, to understand where the user is everywhere, even unstructured transactional data, as we were mentioning, and be able to understand in real time. One example we were discussing as well is more and more FSIs are using all this information that are being fed and even building models internally. So we work with many, let's say many FIs that are working on their own model that delivers one product with one loan with a specific interest rate per user in real time. And only deciding where to deliver that recommendation. Should we show that recommendation of a specific interest rate when the user opens the app, or should we show it only on Saturday afternoon, but not on a Tuesday morning? Is delivering 50% of the impact of that recommendation. So we have this amazing model. In this case, we have this bank that is using more than 300 variables, internal data that only the bank can access, and are delivering this recommendation. But the moment of the customer and the empathic level that we are calculating with this Mastercard data is delivering 50% of the value. It's all about the moment, and it's when we show the right information to the right user, right? What are your plans in terms of, I understand most of what you're doing right now is first on external channels. Let's say, what are your plans to, let's say, take that farther?
Well, I think obviously like data is key. Sorry,
almost there, not yet.
I think data is key, and now more than ever, like you need to have it like at the frontier of activation, because Gen AI is already here, and I honestly think, it's not only me, like the hyperscalers are like investing a lot of billions in there. So it is the next frontier in general. So, but you need to like sort your data and how powerful like audience segmentation and orchestration and activation to use all the AI possible. I honestly think that we in terms of AI, we're not going to compete against AI. I don't think for the foreseeable future AI is going to take our job, but we are going to compete against other marketing teams that are going to make really good use of AI, right? And I think that we need to consider that the cost of intelligence is probably going to drop to zero in the next 3 to 5 years, and if you don't take that into account in your business model and the way you work, it's probably going to disrupt your business. So, we're humble with this. We're trying to learn and test and fail as fast as possible. I think even the hyperscalers are still learning. Everybody's learning. So we don't really know, we don't have a view like 3 years ahead. Nobody has. But we know like we need to like start touching this, and playing with it right now. So that's in the position we are right now.
Very interesting. And then as we discussed and was also mentioned today, of course, we have computer using agents. So we have agents that will very, very soon, they're already crawling our websites, and this traffic will scale now as operator of OpenAI is starting and others will follow. We'll have agents checking our websites. We will have agents that have the goal of finding the best loan for me as a user that they know very well, or agents to look for the right hotel room. I want to go to the Caribbean, maybe Jamaica, could be all inclusive. I'm looking for something. Mm-hmm. And these agents already have very clear signals. So this becomes a paradigm shift for us when it comes to how we change our sites. What do we do when an agent is coming in? How do we show the content for the agent to crawl it in a way that we think is efficient? And that's where, let's say, we are running most of the experimentation, assuming, as Satya and Adela is saying, that lots of this logic will go to the AI layer. We might not have search engines as we know them in 5-10 years. We might have the AI layer to which we need to get used to, right? So using this data and individualizing the content is going to be, let's say, it's going to be something that only pioneers do. And I think that's definitely a journey you are well into.
And I think actually that's happening, to be honest. I think we're all like looking through ChatGPT when we search, and we're seeing it on our website. And it's actually like outperforming Gemini. And we don't know if there's going to be more traffic because, a lot of the things are going to be already answered before like you reach a website. They're probably going to crawl it for prices. But this is just speculation, right? I mean, I think it's going to happen like this, but, it's happening right now.
Indeed. So one of the experiments that we are running when in Mastercard in Dynamic Yield is actually checking these patterns of navigation of these agents to try to understand, let's say, what is that should be shown first, et cetera, to personalize. But of course, then it brings another conundrum when it comes to identification of the user, attribution, et cetera, right? So it's definitely going to be very interesting, and maybe we can come back next year, the year after, and give more information about this. But it's still, let's say, wide world. If you had to give only one message, or let's say something to all the brands here, something to do, homework for the next year, what would it be?
Just play as much as you can and try and infuse AI into your workflows and into scaling your processes. I think it's the next step.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.